UFC 321 is finally upon us. The day we have been waiting for is tomorrow. So it is time to give you guys my predictions for this event. Very very excited card. Very exciting. It's another one of those cards that feels like a bit easy to predict, so which scares me a little bit. So still, I will give you guys my rundown of my predictions for this entire card, starting at the early prelims, making our way down to the main event. So we are going to be starting things off with Jacqueline Amorim versus Mizuki Inoue, and for this fight. I always like get a little giggly talking about the first fucking fight of the card. This fight, I'm going to pick Jacqueline Amorim to win. She's a very heavy favorite here. She's been more active over in the last few years of her career. Mizuki has taken like 2 years off at this point. She's also a very solid grappler. She's going to have the reach advantage here. And she's on a pretty good win streak. So for those reasons, I'm going to lean towards Jacqueline Amorim to win this fight. Up next, simple as that, man. It really is as simple as that. Especially when it comes to women's MMA. Up next, we have Maksam versus Mitch Raposo. Mitch Raposo is not someone that belongs in the UFC. I don't think he has a very high showcase of skill. I think he's a very low output fighter. And I just think Maksam has some close fights with good opponents. So I think I'm just going to go with Maksam based on just the experience, you know, just the skill, just the fact that he's shown that he knows how to fight within the UFC flyweight division, whereas Mitch Raposo I don't think has really showcased anything that puts confidence within me that he's going to win his fight. So for those reasons, I'm going to go with Maksam. Up next, Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Chris Barnett. I don't like this fight at all. Who has Hamdi even actually fought? I don't remember. He's 1-1 in the UFC. He lost to Muhammad Usman. Jesus Christ. And okay, wow. Chris Barnett, he's coming off a year off. He's 2-3. He lost to Candy. That's not as bad as of a loss as I think people think it is, but you've beaten Jake Collier, John Valente with a very fluky spinning wheel kick. I'm gonna go with Hamdi to win this fight. I just think he's I think he's going to control with the leg kicks. He's going to control the fight. I think he's going to have a lot more to do up against the cage. He's going to be pressuring Chris Barnett. I don't think Chris Barnett's really going to have an answer for that. I really just don't rate, as much as I love Chris Barnett, much as everyone loves Chris Barnett, I don't really love his striking ability. I think a lot of his wins are very fluky. And of course, coming off the injury makes it, a very questionable, like, how he's going to come back, especially being 39 years old and as big as he is, So, yeah, I'm going to favor Hamdi to win this fight. Up next, though, this one is exciting, actually. I'm very excited for this one. It's Nathaniel Wood taking on Jose Delgado. Nathaniel Wood's a very talented fighter. He's on a pretty decent little streak in the UFC here. Muhammad Naimov isn't a great loss, but Andre Fili, Charles Jourdain, Charles Rosa, that was a good win at the time. Yeah, he's on a decent little streak here. He's coming up, but now he's going to fight someone like Jose Delgado, who, if you look at his record, is like Hydra Mill. Like, these guys not really. The Hydra Mill win is a very, very good one, He's Hydra Mill is someone who's, like, just on the cusp of that, just outside the rankings kind of ordeal. So, I'm going to go with Jose Delgado to win this fight. I think that, Wood is talented. He'll mix in the wrestling, and he'll be on the calf kicks and the jab. But the thing about Delgado is that he's very quick, and he's going to have the speed and power advantage. I also think he's going to have a size advantage. He does have the size advantage, actually. That he's like 5 inches taller than him, with a bit of a reach advantage as well. And I just see Delgado being able to counter everything that Wood throws at him, and he's going to have some good out of the pocket exchanges when it comes to like some of the close clinch fighting that they're going to get into. I see Delgado being able to pull away with the win here. Up next, this is awesome, dude. Louis Sutherland versus Walter Walker. I could have sworn, did I not talk about Louis Sutherland recently? He just fought, didn't he? Oh, he was gonna fight Justin Toff. That's right. Right. So now he's making his debut against Walter Walker, which is that's a step up in competition, man. Like, I'm not as heavily, when you were looking at the Justin Toff fight, I can't remember if I actually talked about it in the video, but or if it got canceled before the video was able to go out. But I do kind of rate Louis Sutherland. I do think he has a pretty decent chance. I do think he has the ability to finish some of these other guys in the UFC division. I think he is UFC ready. It's just that you're fighting a guy like Walter Walker, who's put on some very good performances in the last few fights. Honestly, he's on his like heel hook streak right now. So I don't know if I necessarily see that going on for him. But I am going to pick Walter Walker to win this fight here. I think Walter Walker moves well on the feet. Or, sorry, Sutherland moves well on the feet, you know, his kicks, feints, and he will mix in takedown attempts. However, I just think Walker will be more aggressive. I think he has the speed and the athletic advantage, and I also think he's a better grappler. So if it ever, you know, I think Sutherland has a pretty decent chance if he keeps the fight standing. He'll be able to mix in a lot of strikes that Walter Walker may not be able to predict. But however, I see as soon as a takedown attempt comes in, Walker will get the advantage on the ground. He's the better grappler. He may end up getting the heel hook. I'm not gonna say for certain that he won't, but I'm gonna predict that this fight will be more towards a grapple heavy game, and I think Walter Walker's gonna have the experience to be able to pull away with a victory in that regard. If Sutherland is able to defend all the takedowns and then, you know, keep it standing, then I think he will have a good chance to win. But I'm gonna go with Walter Walker to win this fight. This is exciting. Matu's Rebecki versus Ludovic Klein. These are two very... Rebecki's a very awesome fighter, man. He goes the distance in a lot of them, and he has just these fucking wars with people. A lot of people remember the Midabek oral by... Like, he gained a lot of respect from people for this win over here. Which he should, honestly. It was a very good performance from him. You know, he's good. He's had good ones against people like Roosevelt Roberts. But, you know, like, not super strong wins, but... decent enough to establish himself as a pretty solid contender in the lightweight division. You know, he loses to pretty decent guys. You know, Diego Ferreira, Chris Duncan are not like the worst losses in the world, right? But now he's gonna face someone like Ludovic Klein, who's coming off a pretty, I don't want to say undeserving fight against Gamrot, but he didn't look too bad in that at all. He also had a win over Roosevelt Roberts. He just has some kind of like the Ignacio Bahamondes win is aging pretty well from there. And Mason Jones, wow, this guy's actually beaten some pretty good fighters. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with Ludovic Klein to win this fight. I think Rebecki will start more aggressively, but I think Klein is quicker and more accurate, and so he will be able to start taking over as the fight progresses, because I do think this will go into a decision. I think the grappling of each other cancel out, and both guys are pretty explosive, but will slow down as the fight goes on. Like I said, I think Rebecki will start out strong, maybe win the first round, but then as the fight goes on, Klein will slowly start to take over with his striking. Start putting the pressure on him in the later rounds. Rebecki won't really have answers for it. He'll be eating a lot of shots, but just tanking them all. It'll be fun, though. It will be a fun fight. I do see it going the distance, obviously, and I do think Ludovic Klein will be able to pull off with a victory here. So, yeah, man. This one's also very fucking interesting, dude. Oh, man. I hate that they're doing Jun-yong Park like this, but it's Jun-yong Park, the Iron Turtle versus Ikram Aliskerov. Aliskerov, who the fuck? I gotta remind myself. Andre Muniz. Right. This is the guy that lost to Whitaker in the main event of that fight. Right. And then he beat Andre Muniz. Now he's looking to beat Jun-yong Park. Jun-yong Park himself obviously is the GOAT of the entire sport, man. Oh, he fucking lost to Muniz. Gregory Rodriguez win isn't bad. Anthony Hernandez win isn't bad. This guy's beating a lot of cans in the division. I'm gonna go with Ikram Aliskerov to win this fight. I think Park is tough, and he can be scrappy, but I don't think he has that finishing power or the wrestling ability to really, you know, kind of put himself in an advantage here in this fight. I think Aliskerov is a good finisher and has very good takedown defense, and I think he's going to be able to out-pressure Park and find some good strikes to win the fight, probably by decision because, again, Jun-yong Park is a very tough fighter. So for those reasons, I'm going to give it to Aliskerov. Up next, Nasrat Haqparast versus Killian Salkilld. I have some stocks in Killian Salkilld, bro. I have to be honest. I think this kid's really, really talented. However, though, I think he got given a bad matchup, bro. Nasrat Haqparast is the fucking ultimate, like, split decision merchant. And even if he doesn't, like, just always get it like that, like, he does have a lot of... Okay, recently, right? He obviously has a lot of KO, TKO wins. But, you know, against Jared Gordon, Esteban Ribovic, very close fights. I think he actually lost to Jared Gordon. But he has a decent track record. He doesn't lose to the worst people. Dan Hooker, King Green in 2022 was kind of fucking tough. Drew Dober in 2020 isn't a bad loss. Now he has to fight an up-and-coming Killian Salkilld. I think he's still undefeated in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he is. He's had some really good performances against Yanel Ashmouz and Anshul Jubli. He's on a very strong run now. He looks pretty great. But I think I'm gonna have to give this to Nasrat Haqparast. I think he is going to win this fight. I think Haqparast is just gonna be more powerful. I think the counter punches are gonna be a really strong factor in this fight with some good takedown defense from Nasrat, and he has a good fight IQ. To always constantly go to decisions to out class your opponent that kind of way does take a very specific set of skills. And I think Nasrat Haqparast obviously does have those kind of skills to really keep the fight in his under control in his favor. Killian can wrestle, and he does have the power to hurt Nasrat, but I don't think he has the power to necessarily finish Nasrat. And I think he mixes in his strikes really well. He has some good boxing and a very strong chin, so I will also say this fight goes to a decision. But I'm going to give the nod to Nasrat Haqparast to win this fight here. Up next, starting the main card off with a fucking banger, dude. It's Alexander Rakic versus Asmat Murzakanov. Let's look at Alexander Rakic, man. He has been... These fighters are very interesting. These are very interesting fighters to try to kind of predict, because it's dudes that are you're losing, but you've lost to 3 former champs in a row, and one was because of a leg injury. The second was because you were you were dominating until he decides to lock in, and then the third is just one of the more one of the better light heavyweights of recent memory. I don't heavily rate these wins. Obviously the Jimmy Manu was very highlight worthy. Anthony Smith in 2020, that's not a bad win. Thiago Santos right before he left. This was right off his title defense, wasn't it? No, it was after a first round submission. And he's facing Asmat Murzakanov, who is undefeated. Who has he faced already? I need to refresh. Brenson Ribeiro, Alonzo Menefield, that was a good win. Dustin Jacoby is a good win. That obviously increases your stock. Devin Clark. Okay, so this is a tough one, man. This one's tough. Sorry, I'll go back to the page, actually. I'm going to go with Alexander Rakic to win this fight. I think, just the fact that Rakic has switched camps, and he's always just been able to stay at the top level using his range striking. He's used his size. He's used the speed and power. And despite the fact he's a little bit chinny, I think he's going to be able to control this fight more. I think Murzakanov is going to be looking for a lot of just big strikes, but he's going to be getting pieced up at range a lot. He could theoretically catch Rakic in a strike exchange, but I think Rakic has enough experience. He has enough skill. He has enough talent to be able to control the fight, stay at range, piece him up. I don't think there's going to be a lot of grappling in this fight, but I'm going to predict that, Rakic is going to be able to be, controlling the fight, basically. And I think getting the bigger shots in, not the bigger shots, but the more damaging shots throughout the entire fight. So I'm going to predict Alexander Rakic to win this fight. Oh, up next, Volkov versus Jaitan Almeida. This is a very interesting matchup, man. It's a very interesting matchup for this entire card, really. Volkov's coming off that robbery loss to Cyril Gane. He should be in the main event. He's still a super gatekeeper of the division, man. He is super on top of things. Only losing to Blades, Aspinall, Gane, Derek Lewis. These are all challengers of the fucking title. So Almeida, obviously, with a win here, probably could be looking towards that. Jaitan Almeida, how has he done recently again? It was only lost to Blades because of the hammer fist, and he was because Blades has a pretty underrated grappling game. Beat Romanov. I forgot this fight went down. Wow. And then beats Sergey Spivak. You know what? I'm going to go with Almeida to win this. I just see the speed advantage that he has, right? And I do think he also has an athleticism advantage. I think to get the takedown right, to chain wrestle, he'll transition positions pretty well, and he's going to have the grappling advantage. As much as I love Volkov, and I do think he's one of the bigger, harder dudes to beat and one of the more impressive wins, he's just so big and lumbering, he's just a big dude. And I think that for someone like Almeida, I think he's fought this fight a lot. I think he knows his round away, like around a big dude pretty well. And again, like I said, I think he's gonna have the speed and athleticism advantage to get the takedowns, to chain wrestle, transition positions every time Volkov tries to counter him, or like, you know, hold wrist control. And I just think overall he's gonna have the grappling advantage to try to get a submission win here. So I'm gonna pick Jaden Almeida to win this fight. Up next, feature fight of the night: Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista. Oh boy, how the fuck? This is very, very interesting. This is a very interesting fight. You know, Umar's coming off the Merab loss, which he looked good in, but I don't think he looked as good. I think it was that fight that people kind of opened their eyes towards Merab and how good of a fighter he really could be. Mario Bautista has always just been kind of one of those guys that he doesn't have the most exciting style of fighting, but he's a very successful one, and he's looked really good against I don't know if I want to say decent opponents, man, because like I think pretty much every single person he's like, you know, who's his most impressive? I think every single one of these fighters lost their next fight. Like Ricky Simone lost to Vinicius Oliveira. Wow. Jose Aldo lost to Ayman Zahabi. And then Patchy Mix ended up losing to what's his name? Jacob Wicklats. So like, I don't know how much I can rate this guy, man. Even this guy lost to, like, who is the last fucking dude that he beat that actually won his next fight? Has this ever happened? It hasn't. This guy was cut from the UFC after he lost. Wow. Even if it goes back this far, it doesn't really matter, dude. Damn. Umar, you know, we faced Sandhagen, beat him. I don't remember this guy at all. I don't remember most of these other names, actually. Brian Kelleher, obviously. Shit, dude. I'm gonna have to... That wasn't... I already knew who I was gonna pick before going into this. It's just... wow, that really, like, you know, makes the record look bad. But I'm gonna go with Umar Nurmagomedov to win this fight here. I just think the way he fights, right? And, like, you know, the big problem with, like, his fight with Merab was that, you know, if it was a 3-round fight, he looked way better in it. He won the first 3 rounds. So I think this being a 3-round fight, it favors Umar Nurmagomedov. I think Batista's going to have to try hard to get through the range fighting, the jabs and kicks that Umar throws. He's going to have to spam takedowns. And if he does do all those things, Umar will still be in there trying to get more damage, probably getting more damage. He's going to be utilizing the kicks really well. He's going to be throwing quick jabs, and he's going to be doing really well in the footwork, and then also going to mix in the wrestling. So I think the thing is, I think Mario Bautista has a lot not going for him in this fight. He doesn't have he feels like the natural underdog going into this, you know, like he has a lot to try to get through in a very short amount of time. That Umar's already demonstrated that, you know, 15-minute fights, he's gonna be able to put all these things together and work really well, and has a very good cardio for a 15-minute fight. So I think Batista's gonna have to work really, really hard to try to get through all that Umar's gonna be throwing at him, and I don't think I see him being able to get through all that. So I'm gonna go with Umar Nurmagomedov to win this fight here. I just think like the 15-round fight gives him the advantage. Plus, yeah, they're pretty even, like, size matchup wise. But I'm gonna go with Umar Nurmagomedov to win. Up next is our co-main event, one of the least important title fights this year. Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. The thing is, though, with this fight, the more I thought about it, the more I actually thought this was actually gonna be a very, very interesting fight. And I'm definitely going back and forth between who I think's gonna win this, dude. Like, Mackenzie Dern, right? Like, she has pretty decent losses. You know, Amanda Lemos, title challenger. Jessica Andrade just has some good knockout power, so she was get obviously the knockout there. Yan Xiaonan has, you know, also a good striking. All these women just have really good striking when they're put up against someone like Mackenzie Dern. That's kind of like her weak point, is when she faces someone that forces her to stand up on the feet and has good takedown defense. Virna Jandiroba is just on an absolute monster streak, though, beating Yan Yaozhan and Amanda Lemos and Marina Rodriguez, all people that Mackenzie Dern has lost to. So it's funny when you can look at it, because she's found ways to get through to those opponents that Mackenzie Dern hasn't been able to. So I think naturally you'd want to pick her to do better, but if you look at the first fight, she lost to Mackenzie Dern. I'm trying to think if there's any other No, it was a unanimous decision win. I think she looked good if my memory serves me correctly. She looked good in that fight. I didn't watch that. I haven't watched it recently. She did look better in the first fight. She looked good with the takedowns, and she's gonna have the physicality advantage. I think both are very hard people to submit. In terms of the wrestling, I think I'm gonna have to slightly lean towards Dern here. I think she's just tougher and more aggressive, and Verna's more technical. Dern also has a pretty good style to beat Verna. I think, like I said, all her losses are due to the exploitations of her poor striking, and those people that she's fought usually have good knockout power. Verna usually wins by being the better wrestler, hasn't really been pressured in the grappling so far. So it's really just a question of like how good, how much beyond like, you know, what we think it could be is Verna Jandiroba's grappling abilities. In the striking, when it's on the feet, I think Dern is also more aggressive and powerful. Verna is better, you know, in the clinch and the short exchanges. I think Dern will have more submission attempts and obviously bigger moments on the feet. However, I think I'm gonna go on a limb here, right? And I can't really back this up a lot, but I'm gonna go with Jandiroba I just have a feeling, you know, Jandiroba is gonna be more controlling in the fight. I think she's just going to be on top a lot more. I think Dern obviously going to be comfortable like on the ground, just trying to find ways out of it. Obviously throwing up a lot more submission attempts, but I think Jandiroba will put a stop to those pretty quickly. And again, just try to control, find her own submission attempts from on top, look good, probably have top mount, maybe throw a few strikes in there. You know, there's a lot I worry about Mackenzie Dern in terms of, like, you know, where she's at and how ready she is for a fight like this. Because I feel like, you know, when this fight first got announced, I feel like a lot of people were kind of like, oh, Mackenzie Dern getting a title shot? Oh, that's very interesting. Like, we don't know if, like, she's really ready for that title shot yet, which is kind of the problem when you have, like, these vacant strawweight championship fights. Is like, there's a lot of undetermination of whether or not, like, they're ready for this fight. Because if we look at her record again, you know, she's coming off a win over Amanda Ribas, who I don't think was even really that close to being, like... Yeah, she wasn't really close to having, like, a big, you know, like, breakout fight, really. You know, coming off a loss to Rose Namajunas, so... I think that leaves a lot of question for... I think there's a lot of question for both women, you know? It's... For Verna, it's a question of how really good her grappling is, and if she's going to be able to fight another good grappler like Mackenzie Dern. And it's for Mackenzie Dern if she's really, like, that title fight level quality that, she's been put in this position to be. So it's a very interesting fight. The more I thought about it, the more I was intrigued by it. I'm still going to pick Verna Jandiroba to win this fight. I do think the grappling and the wrestling will come through for her. Like I said, I think Dern is, like, technically... I think Dern will have the flashier moments, but I just think Jandiroba's going to be a lot more controlling throughout the entire fight, you know? So I'm going to pick this to go to, like... you know what's funny? I think it was MMA Guru that said this, and I think I actually agree with him quite a bit. But I think the scorecard is going to be 49-46 Verna Jandiroba, but one of the judges will give it to Mackenzie Dern. I think it will be like a split decision, but I do think Jandiroba has a 4-1 scorecard. I think that is a very good prediction, so I'm gonna bandwagon that prediction. But yes, Jandiroba will win this fight. And then main event for the UFC Heavyweight Championship, going from one of the least important title fights of the year to the most important title fight of the year. I don't think even the UFC realize how important this fight is, and specifically the outcome that is if Tom Aspinall wins this. The UFC needs Tom Aspinall to win this. Genuinely, dude. Their whole reputation, right, is basically at stake here. Like, the ideas of, you know, they always try to separate themselves from boxing, and the heavyweight division has been through so much bullshit over the last few years that if, you know, Tom Aspinall isn't able to walk away with an actual legitimate world title fight win to his name, people will throw up a lot of boxing credit, like, you know, comparatives and, like, you know, like, just how Tom Aspinall's career has kind of been derailed by a bunch of outside bullshit that really shouldn't happen in this sport, in the sport of MMA, and especially in the UFC. So it's very, very important to the UFC that Tom Aspinall does win this fight, which I think is kind of why. I think it's kind of why they gave him an opponent like Ciryl Gane. Because I do think Tom Aspinall wins this fight. Genuinely. I don't really see what Ciryl Gane could have for him that would, like, really... that he's better in that. Aside from being, like, a good kickboxer... I think Gane will do a good job of keeping him at range with the kicks. But the only problem with Ciryl Gane, though, is I think he's going to bite on every single feint. And I think Aspinall wins in the grappling ability. Aspinall, like, you take a look at, like, everything Aspinall's done. He's a very, very underrated grappler. And I think that happens a lot to heavyweights, where you just kind of remember, like, the very quick KO wins that, admittedly, Tom Aspinall has a ton of. But I think the grappling was really going to come into play this fight. Obviously, I think Gane has a lot of cons in the grappling department. I think Aspinall's striking defense is also a little bit sus. He has some very limited offense sometimes. It's very predictable at points. He doesn't really throw a lot at you. He just throws a lot of damaging shots, not a lot of, like, he doesn't really mix in a lot. But he is well timed with his takedowns. He can get you with the takedown very surprisingly. And it's usually after, like, a step back of strikes, he'll feint back and then he'll come in with the takedown, which is usually something that works very well for him. And of course he has knockout of power immediate. Like, just a single punch could fucking end this fight, which is why most of his fights legitimately only go like 2 minutes. So I rate him there. I think he can get pretty scrappy, and he can afford mistakes from his power. I think he still, like, he probably will eat a few shots at least in, like, the first, like, 30 seconds of this fight at least. And of course Gane is a more well-rounded striker, but I just don't see him having the power to really, like, get a win over Tom Aspinall, or get a quick win that he really ultimately needs to win this fight. When we look more like the Tai Tuivasa fight, where he's just like, his ways of winning are more just getting you tired, running you through the trenches for like just a couple rounds, like out cardioing you if you yourself don't have the knockout power to put him away, and even if you do, because Tuivasa supposedly did, but Gane was just so good at being able to stand and strike and keep him at range and then try to tire him out and then finally going for the finish in the third round. I just don't see that happening, though, against someone like Tom Aspinall. I think Tom Aspinall uses his feints to set up opponents really well. He's going to get the takedown, he'll get the half guard, and then Gane's not going to be able to try anything to get himself up because he just doesn't have that ability. And so, like, genuinely, I could see this being a submission win for Tom Aspinall, really. I could also see, like, obviously, I think, a knockout win is also very possible in this fight outcome here, but I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall, man. I just rate the striking. I just, obviously I think his defense is listless. I just don't see Gane having the power to really put him away or make Tom pay for the mistakes that he usually makes in some of his other fights. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall to win this fight. I fucking so hope he does, man. Like, genuinely, like I said at the beginning of this, I think people are going to look back on his career. Like, if he doesn't win this, people are going to look back at this and be like, wow, the UFC really fucked this guy, like, badly. So I hope he does walk away with a win here, man. And obviously, like I said, the UFC, I think, doesn't even realize how much they need Tom Aspinall to win for their image alone. So, those are my predictions. That's what I think is going to go down on this card. In terms of locks, I have a few. Hold on, let's go over some of them. I'm scared now because, like, go 5 for 5 one week, and then I go 0 for 5 the next week. But I actually have quite a few locks. That's the thing. That's what's scary about this card. I have a few locks for this. I'm going to go Aspinall as a lock. I'm going to go... No, I'm not going to go with Dern. I don't think Dern's a lock. I don't think Umar's a lock. I think... No, I don't think Volkov's a lock. Or Almeida's a lock. I don't think Rakic is a lock either. I'm going to go with Nasrat Haqparast. I'm pretty confident that Nasrat will win over Killian Salkilld. I'm sorry. I like Killian Salkilld. Like I said, I'm about to pull my funding on Killian Salkilld before the dip happens, but... I'm going to go Nasrat Haqparast as a lock. I think Ikram Aliskerov is also a lock. He's looked really good. I'll go Ludovic Klein as a lock too. I like Ludovic Klein. I think these odds don't reach it. I just think Rebecki just absorbs so much damage, man. I think Klein is the perfect kind of opponent to, really apply that kind of a damage to him. I'm going to go with Walker as a lock too. I think so. Yeah, I think Walker is a lock as well. Delgado is also a lot. a lot of these prelim guys I think are pretty, like, I'm pretty confident in them winning. And I think for the rest of these are, no, not for the first fight. Like Hamdi's a lock, and I think Azat Maksam is a lock as well. So I don't know how many that is. Listen, I'm gonna throw those all together in a parlay. I think you should too. You should as well, because I'm gonna be right, and if I'm right, that means you're right. So. But yeah, man, those are my predictions for UFC 321. Pretty excited for this. I'll be a nervous wreck actually midday as this goes down, but that's going to do it for me, guys. You can watch a playlist of all my other reactions, predictions right over here. There's a video YouTube things to recommend. You can subscribe to you can subscribe to the channel right here, which you should do if you want to see more from me. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Let me know what your predictions are in the comment section down below. That's going to do it for me, though. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.